Why do the nations conspire and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth rise up, and the rulers band together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, "Let us break their chains and throw off their shackles." The one enthroned in heaven laughs. The Lord scoffs at them. He rebukes them in his anger and terrifies them in his wrath, saying, "I have installed my king on Zion, my holy mountain. I will proclaim the Lord's decree. He said to me, 'You are my son. Today I have become your father. Ask me, and I will make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession. You will break them with a rod of iron. You will dash them to pieces like pottery. Therefore, you kings, be wise. Be warned, you rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, and celebrate his rule with trembling. Kiss his son, or he will be angry, and your way will lead to your destruction, for his wrath can flare up in a moment. Blessed are all who take refuge in him." The psalm in question is traditionally known as Psalm 2, and is a powerful piece of biblical poetry that conveys both a warning and a promise. It begins with a vivid depiction of the rebellion of the nations and their rulers against God and his anointed king. The imagery is stark. The nations are conspiring and plotting in vain. Despite their grand intentions and the sense of unity among the rulers, their efforts are ultimately futile. These rulers are portrayed as wanting to break free from the perceived constraints imposed by God, symbolically described as chains and shackles. This rebellion represents a rejection of divine authority and a desire for autonomy, a common theme throughout human history. As the psalm progresses, it introduces the divine response to these rebellious actions. The one enthroned in heaven refers to God, who is portrayed as being unshaken by the schemes of humanity. Instead of reacting with immediate anger or concern, God is said to laugh and scoff at them. This laughter is a divine expression of the futility of human opposition against God's sovereign will. The psalmist underscores God's omnipotence and the futility of any plan that seeks to undermine his rule. The narrative then shifts to God's direct pronouncement, marked by both rebuke and authority. God declares his anointed king's enthronement on Zion, his holy mountain. This reference to Zion indicates the centrality of Jerusalem and its significance in biblical tradition as the place where God's presence is manifested. The anointed king is often understood within the context of the Davidic line, as the psalm is traditionally ascribed within the context of King David's lineage. However, for many Christian interpreters, this passage is seen as a prophetic reference to Jesus Christ as the divine Son and the ultimate fulfillment of this kingship. The psalm continues with a declaration known as the Lord's decree. In this divine proclamation, the relationship between God and the anointed is explicitly stated. "You are my son. Today I have become your father." This declaration establishes a special, intimate connection that echoes the broader ancient Near Eastern practice, where kings were often considered sons of their patron deity, emphasizing their special status and authority. In the Christian understanding, this proclamation is highly significant as it is interpreted as affirming the divine sonship of Jesus, a cornerstone of Christian theology. Following this, God offers an extraordinary promise to his anointed one: the inheritance of the nations and the ends of the earth as his possession. The imagery used here is dramatic and authoritative. The anointed one is given the power to break the rebellious nations with a rod of iron and to dash them to pieces like pottery. These images convey unstoppable divine authority and judgment, and reinforce the futility of those who dare to rebel against God's chosen king. As the psalm concludes, it shifts towards an appeal and a warning to the rulers of the earth. It serves as a reminder that wisdom begins with recognizing